This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement, the Cape May Star and Wave, the Herald, and on the Township website, and has been posted on the Bulletin Board of Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad.
Here.
Councilmember Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Simonson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. Tonight in our work session, we have, excuse me, please. We have a MUA presentation and report from the manager. At the end of the report, following questions from council, we're going to move Resolution 2014-146 up behind the discussion, which will open public comment for that specific resolution. So in order to have a continuity, sequential operation here so that we don't break and then come back to talk about it, we'll do it all at one time. And I think council has wisely consented to that. So if you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen here tonight. With me for this presentation is our labor attorney, Mr. Bill Blaney, Ron Galzunas, our township attorney, our director of public works, Mr. Gary Douglas, our chief financial officer, Lauren Reed, and Mr. Robert Schwartz, auditor, to give his report.
Can you hear back there?
Okay. Can everyone hear?
They can.
Lower Township Council requested that I investigate the consequences of the possible dissolution of the Lower Township Utilities Authority. At this council's unanimous request, and in order to the repeated outcries of MUA employees and board members, as well as the ongoing investigation by the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office, I, as your manager, have received the task with investigating the effects of consolidating water and sewer services within the township, and if there would be any cost savings possibilities to the ratepayers and the taxpayers of the township by the municipality assuming the services of the Municipal Utility Authority. Tonight, you will not only hear from me, but also Mr. Robert Schwartz, who I introduced, the auditor, who was tasked with performing the financial analysis that compared the numbers and will be able to explain the cost savings to both the ratepayers and the taxpayers of the Township Municipal Utilities Authority. Also here tonight to answer any questions council will have is our Township Solicitor, Ron Galzunas, who can explain the process and procedure of how to proceed should the council wish to do so. Our labor attorney, Bill Blaney, who can explain the procedure of integrating the workforce, and also our public works superintendent, Mr. Douglas, who can explain the assumption of services by the Department of Public Works and the consolidation of services which are currently being performed. My primary focus was the potential for significant monetary savings for the users and taxpayers. Our governor, Chris Christie, has criticized MUA authorities in New Jersey as shadow governments. He encourages greater consolidation, shared services among the more than 600 units of local and county governments to increase efficiencies and pass along those savings onto the taxpayers that we serve. During these tough economic times, families are going over their budgets to better prioritize their spending plans. Also, small businesses are preparing to operate leaner and more efficiently to provide services at a more reasonable rate. It's also our responsibility in local government to provide the same by providing municipal services at a cost savings to the public in which we serve. The following objectives were looked at when evaluating this goal for council to make an intelligent and informed decision to dissolve the Lower Township MUA or not. Must have substantial savings without raising utility rates and without impacting the delivery of services. The elimination of duplication of administration and personnel. elimination of duplication of purchasing expensive equipment, and other areas. All the costs to operate the LTMUA were examined by our professionals, reporting the following. At this time, I would ask you, Mr. Robert Schwartz, Auditor, with your findings, and to present them to council. Mr. Schwartz?
Thank you. First off, I have never been involved with Lower Township, so nobody here knows who I am, and I think it would be beneficial if I just let you have a little bit of my background so that you do know who I am. I am a New Jersey CPA, certified public accountant, a New Jersey registered municipal accountant, and a New Jersey licensed public school accountant. I've been auditing governmental entities and not-for-profit entities in the state of New Jersey for about 40 years. Maybe it's 80, I don't know, it seems a lot of years. But I'm very familiar with the operations of municipalities. I serve and have served as the appointed auditor for many municipalities. Unfortunately, not many in Cape May County. City of Wildwood is the only Cape May County municipality that I have represented. But I have represented many municipalities and many utility authorities. I've also been involved with the local finance board on many occasions, primarily going there for debt issues. When an authority needs to have a bond issue, they're required to go to local finance board. When a municipality is exceeding its debt limit or anything of that nature, they're required to go to local finance board. And in recent years, there were a lot of budget cap issues that required municipalities to go to local finance board. So I've seen all of these things. I've also been on both sides of the fence as far as reviewing the cost and potential cost savings of liquidating or dissolving utility authorities. In most cases, it didn't make sense because there just wasn't a lot of savings. But I think as I read my report, I think you'll see that there's a big difference here. Everything in my report is based on information that I've been provided and that I've reviewed. Again, I don't have any background with the township or the utility authority, so it's all based on this information. I am going to not have to, but I think it would be beneficial for me to read my report in its entirety so that you can get the entire flavor rather than me trying to just encapsulate parts of it. So with that, as requested, we have analyzed the financial information of the Lower Township Municipal Utilities Authority, the authority, to identify any potential cost savings to the taxpayers and utility customers of Lower Township, the township, resulting from the dissolution of the authority and the creation of a self-liquidating water and utility fund within the township's operations. It is important to note that regardless of the cost savings, the safe, effective, and efficient distribution of water to the present customers of the authority and the safe, effective, and efficient collection and treatment of wastewater from the present customers of the authority must continue to be provided. The authority was created by ordinance in 1968 to provide water and sewer service for parts of the township. The service agreement was effective November 19, 1968. Based on information included in a recent bond sale prospectus, the water system presently services approximately 7,000 residential customers and 600 commercial customers in an area of approximately 2 square miles. The present well capacity is 6.12 million gallons per day, and the present usage is an average of 1.24 million gallons per day, with a maximum average daily demand of 2.125 million gallons per day. Also, based on the recent bond sale prospectus, the sewer system provides wastewater collection and treatment services for approximately 13,000 customers, representing approximately 80% of the township. The authority also provides services for a limited number of customers in adjoining municipalities. Operating as a separate entity, the authority has personnel and operating costs that can be assumed by the personnel of the township. This can be accomplished without any degradation of the operations of the water distribution or wastewater collection in the township. The township, with the express permission of the New Jersey Local Finance Board, has the ability to create an ordinance to dissolve the authority under New Jersey statutes annotated 40A:5A-20. That statute also provides that upon dissolution, the township, with the approval of the Local Finance Board, may assume the responsibility and payment of the obligations of the authority, including the responsibility to comply with all terms of the bond indentures. The township would also have the ability to issue refunding bonds to replace the outstanding debt. Some or all of those refunding bonds could be taxable securities. Based on information related to the 2014 water and sewer budgets, we have determined that the dissolution of the authority would result in ongoing annual reduced cost of at least $1 million. The attached Schedule 1 shows the specific savings of $991,126, which does not include savings from reduced utility and insurance costs or ongoing savings from shared use of equipment. Since the authority is a member of the New Jersey State Health Benefits Program, there are ongoing liabilities for retiree health benefits that will be absorbed by the utility fund, resulting in no savings being identified for health benefits. These savings are primarily the result of the elimination of duplicate administrative activity. The township has performed an analysis of the billing and collections for the authority, and since the billing periods for the authority do not coincide with the tax, billing, and collection periods of the township's tax office will be able to absorb those billings and collections. The increased workflow may require one additional clerical employee whose salary and benefits would be easily absorbed in the budget of the township's utility department. The township's finance office also has the capacity to absorb the financial operations of the authority, and the township manager will be able to perform the functions presently performed by the executive director of the authority. In addition, the township's director of public works has reviewed the workflow of plant and field operations of the authority and determined that the consolidation of personnel will allow for an overall reduction in operating personnel. The director of public works has also determined that there will be significant ongoing savings from equipment repairs and replacements. Much of the equipment used by the authority is the same as or similar to equipment used by the township. This means that the township will be able to use the same equipment for public works and utility operations. Schedule 2 shows the 2014 adopted water and sewer budgets with combined adjustments to reflect the known reduced requirements as a result of the dissolution of the authority. The township will be required to honor the debt covenants for the bond issues being assumed. Those covenants include a debt service reserve fund of approximately $1.6 million for 2015 and 2016, which then decreases to $400,000 in 2017 and approximately $250,000 from 2018 through 2032. The reserve fund is cash in the bank, which will become unrestricted fund balance for the amount of the decrease of $1.2 million in 2017. It is also important to recognize that the debt of the utility fund will not impair the borrowing capacity of the township. It is anticipated that the utility fund will be self-liquidating, meaning that the fund will generate sufficient revenue without increasing rates to the users of the water and sewer system. The regulatory basis fund balance, which can be used to stabilize rates, is anticipated to be approximately $6.4 million in 2015 and increase to $7.6 million in 2017. This means that the present rate structure, which is comparable to surrounding municipalities, will not be adversely affected by the elimination of the authority. The projected 2015 water and sewer utility budget, as shown in Schedule 3, does not require the use of any fund balance. There is sufficient fund balance that could be used in the budget to cover the cost of any significant system repairs. This projection is based solely on the information currently available and assumes no significant changes in the revenue stream or no significant unanticipated cost. It must be recognized that there will also be one-time costs required to consummate the dissolution of the authority. Since the authority will be dissolved, Any accumulated absence amounts will need to be paid to the employees since they are no longer employed by the authority. That amount could be a total of $200,000. However, for any employees that are to be considered new employees of the township, an agreement could be negotiated to defer those accumulated absence amounts. In addition, there are costs in analyzing data, preparing fiscal reports, drafting legal ordinances and other documents, and presenting information in an application to the local finance board of the state of New Jersey. These total costs are anticipated not to exceed $60,000. These costs will be able to be readily absorbed through the use of the accumulated surplus available in the newly created utility fund as shown in Schedule 4, which is then adjusted to be in conformance with the New Jersey regulatory basis financial reporting in Schedule 5. To ensure a smooth transition from the generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP-based financial reporting under the requirements of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, the attached Schedule 4 shows the transition from the financial reporting under GAAP to the required reporting under the New Jersey regulatory basis of accounting. As a self-liquidating utility, the debt of the utility fund will not have any impact on the township's borrowing capacity. In addition, the utility fund will be able to authorize debt by ordinance without the requirement to request the authorization of the New Jersey Local Finance Board. The township will need to recognize the need to have experienced licensed personnel in various positions to safely and efficiently operate the water and sewer utility fund. The township will ensure, must ensure the adequate personnel are available and that all requisite licensed personnel are employed.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
We have schedules, but I'll be able to respond to questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ladies and gentlemen, the council, you've just heard the conclusion of the auditor's report, who reported substantial savings for the utility customers and the taxpayers. As a result of much public outcry by LTMUA employees asking this council to address changes needed, also the ongoing investigation by the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office, I was asked to investigate. Again, many employees and commissioners asked council to have LTMUA looked at for mismanagement and possible illegal activity at several township council meetings. If the council authorizes the process to start the dissolution of the authority, my plan is to consolidate public works with current employees at the LTMUA location. My 2 to 3 year plan would be to have the following. Year 1, the implementation of sewer and water utility integrated into the new township called Public Services Department. This would be a new department within the township table of organization. Number 2, move all current public works division to the current LTMUA location. Integrate all personnel and equipment under the township's new Public Services Department. This will produce a more efficient and effective public service. And 3, to clean up and sell the Seashore Road property that's currently housing the public work facility and return that back to the township. As your manager, it's been my job to investigate and recommend areas of savings. Therefore, it is my strong recommendation, based on all the findings that you have heard here tonight, to move forward and dissolve the utility authority. The bottom line of making these tough decisions is that it's our responsibility as elected and me as an appointed official to pass on savings to the users and taxpayers whenever identified. If council moves forward, the users and taxpayers being under the township's management will provide more efficiencies and financial controls. Lastly, it should be made clear that it is my recommendation, as well as this council's intent, to never consider, and I repeat, never consider selling the water and sewer utility to a private entity. I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Well done. We'll open it up to council questions in any way, shape, or form here.
My question, first one is, why now?
Why
I've
not?
been asking this question, trying to get this, and I've been told, we have to wait for the prosecutor's investigation to get done. We have to wait. And now we come into a meeting, get a report, and we're being asked for a vote immediately. I'm just asking what happened, what changed the thought process?
Well, nothing changed. As I said, you, councilman, and the other council asked me to move forward to look into possible dissolution. The prosecutor's office just is an overriding event that's going on. And then recently, as you know, that there was just another mismanagement going on where they just paid out $172,500. I'm just giving you the report. In my opinion, it's an easy decision if you're going to save taxpayers or ratepayers money.
I agree
But I
with
don't
you.
think the prosecutor's investigation has anything to do with your instruction for me to look at
I agree with
dissolution.
the whole thing about this, because I've been saying this for a while. That was the stumbling block. It's like the prosecutor. How much of a surplus is there right now? And does that have to stay there with what the MUA stuff is? Where if, in case anything happens. The township can't just touch it to use it for anything, or would they be able to?
The township can, excuse me. The township can use some of that surplus, but really a very limited amount. The amount that's in that surplus really should be there for the users of the system. If you had a situation where 100% of the township was sewered and watered, then it would be a little more fair to use it. But I shouldn't use the word, but to raid that surplus just to benefit the township is not really fair to
No,
the...
that's why I want to make sure it doesn't happen. That money is protected.
Tom,
It's there
I
for
think
infrastructure.
we've been in, I don't know that there's anybody that's been more adamant about not touching the surplus down at the MUA than I
Well,
have been.
I
got you on that. That's
I'm
not-
just trying to make sure it is protected.
And Councilman, just to that we go one step further, hasn't been clarified, it's going to be separate accounts. They're going to be
Yeah.
a separate utility account within the
Right.
structure
That-
of the administration of this township, and then your general
We've been
account.
talking about that for months. My other thing is, that has certain things, how many employees are losing their jobs? Because we have it at a set number here.
Well, let Mr. Blaney.
Pull that microphone over so you can show.
What's going to happen is both entities are civil service entities. So there's a requirement under civil service of how you go about shutting down the MUA, and then we're going to have certain requirements on us as a civil service entity as to how we can hire employees. While it hasn't been set in stone, the thought process is that most of the administrative employees, with the exception of some clericals, will not be needed as we go to a in-house MUA here. But the laborers, the rank and file workers will almost likely be needed, with the exception of a couple that are going to be lost through attrition in the next year, as looking at who's got the retirement papers in, who doesn't have the retirement papers in. So it looks like we're going to go from about 18 now, and mind you, there are a couple vacant positions right now over there, down to 14 that'll come over to the township.
And it'll be a smooth transition, Councilman, over this 90-day period, is that we would,
Right, what happens is, if you were to vote on this and it were to move forward through an ordinance, once the ordinance was passed saying that we're going to shut down the MUA, the time frame I believe, is looking at sometime in November to line it up with the fiscal year. The MUA would need at least 90 days in order to put together a layoff plan, submit it to civil service. Civil service is going to have to review it. And then there's a 45-day requirement of notice to the employees. Once the plan is submitted, the township can begin talking to the employees about who's coming over, what positions they're going to be doing, whether they're going to be in an integrated unit. In other words, are they a laborer and they're going to be working under both sides, or are they a water repairer who's going to be doing water repair still? So it should be fairly seamless with most of the technical workers continuing to do their job. Some of the non-technical workers may fall into a grouping that does both public works type work and MUA traditional work. So, and that's where you're going to get some of your savings. You're going to have a larger workforce for some of those unskilled labor type.
and as far as the benefit package, it's similar.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, the benefit package is similar. One is state health benefits plan. We have, that's the MUA. We have our own plan. It's a similar plan. Pension system will stay the same. And what'll happen is the MUA is not unionized. We are unionized. So it's anticipated that the union will seek to represent those workers that aren't in titles that are currently represented. And we will have to do some collective bargaining over what the rates are for those new titles, and the
The main
union will
reason I asked that,
determine.
it says the reduction in operations, 292,000, so that's why I asked for a number, because that's,
Mostly administrative.
well, that's, yeah, administrative, they said it's going to be 389. That's why
Retirements,
it's,
yeah, yeah.
well, I'm looking at that going, okay, that's why I want to know how many.
And there's also, I believe, some positions from what we're seeing that may be funded that aren't filled over there in their budget. So that may also be part of the savings that you're saying there.
Yeah, there was a $400,000 amount over the 1 million mark that the auditor,
Maybe the auditor can
yeah,
speak to that.
that we couldn't identify in the salaries.
Yes, in the combined budgets for the sewer and water utility for the authority, the total salaries were $1,486,080. When I took the listing of salaries that I was provided from the OPRA request, they totaled $1,074,496. That's a $411,584 difference, some of which I would presume, and I don't have any basis for saying this, but I would presume some of that would relate to the presently vacant executive director position. And as you mentioned, there may be some other positions that just currently aren't filled, but prudently and correctly, the authority would have put those positions into their budget if they intended to fill them. But in taking it from their budget to what I've been told the needs are of the overall township and new utility fund, that total difference is a savings.
So in other words, if you're looking at the 400,000, you might actually, and we won't know till we actually get the books and look at everything. Am I correct on that a little bit?
Yes, you're correct on that in some respects, but I would strongly suggest that what you will find will be potential additional savings.
Up to-
I
up to
feel
400.
very comfortable based on the budgets that were presented to the state of New Jersey and the information that I've been provided of what jobs can be done within the township without additional employees by combining things together, that you will have that $1 million in savings. And like I mentioned, just really very briefly, as an example, whenever you combine things, you generally get a economy of scale. For example, the authority presently has its insurance with the state authority JIF, whereas you are with the Atlantic County JIF, and combining the utility fund with the township should, and I don't have anything to back me up on this, so I can't, that's why I didn't quantify it, but the resultant number combined should be lower. And there are a lot of other things in there that I'm very confident you'll see a
Do you
savings.
feel the $400,000 that was just spoken of could potentially be additional savings?
No, not additional.
Then where is that? That's just.
That's included in that $991,126.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
Yes,
that. Okay.
yeah, that is part of that.
And just to clarify this is just to seek permission. This is not the actual ordinance. This is just to see if we can get permission to do so.
Ron, you want to respond to that? Let Ron will explain the process his way it's
Let
better.
me just give a general overview of the process. This is one of those good occasions where the state legislature has provided us with a pretty straightforward statute that's clear on how to do this. And this area we embark upon is governed under the local authorities fiscal control law. And under statute NJSA 40, as alluded to by Mr. Schwartz, capital A:5A-20, entitled Dissolution of Authority by a Local Unit. And I realize council's been read to a lot tonight, but I ask your indulgence just for a short paragraph here, because this will, is the elements that the township has to establish in order to dissolve the authority. And it says, notwithstanding the provisions of any other law to the contrary, the governing body of a local unit which has established an authority shall have the power and is authorized by ordinance in the case of a municipality, and ordinance or resolution as appropriate in the case of a county, to dissolve the authority except that the ordinance or resolution, as the case may be, shall be approved by the local finance board prior to adoption. The local finance board shall approve the dissolution if it finds that, 1, the ordinance or resolution makes adequate provision in accordance with the bond resolution or otherwise for the payment of all creditors or obligees of the authority. And 2, that adequate provision is made for the assumption of those services provided by the authority, which are necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the recipients of those services. The ordinance or resolution shall be introduced and adopted in the manner provided by law, shall take effect immediately after final adoption, and shall not be subject to referendum. Now, that's the statutory framework in which we work. Now, we've heard we'll hear from our CFO, we've heard from Mr. Schwartz about the financial aspect and the ability of the township to assume, and that's what we'll be doing, my understanding, is assuming the debt of the MUA. We'll hear from Mr. Gary Douglas about the assumption of those services. We've already heard that the township will be taking on most of the employees who are the actual persons who are providing those services. We'll also hear from the manager possibly a little bit more about those assumptions of services. So those are the two elements that need to be satisfied by the local finance board. And from my understanding, from what I've heard, we can more than satisfy those two elements. So looking at the general timeline, and to answer Councilman's question, tonight there's a resolution on the agenda. That resolution simply authorizes the application to the local finance board. Now, why is that on the agenda tonight? I'm told by Mr. Schwartz and is recommended by the local finance board that these things are best done at the end of the fiscal year to make things cleaner. The end of the fiscal year for the MUA is November 30th. So taking that date and moving back, looking at all the things that we have to do starting tonight, I've put together a tentative timeline. And we're looking at introducing the ordinances June 16th. Now, there'd be 3 ordinances introduced. 1, the dissolution dissolving the MUA. 2, an ordinance creating a department within the township to assume those services. And 3, an ordinance, a bond ordinance, assuming the debt obligations of the MUA. Those ordinances will be introduced. The application will be prepared, and that will be sent to the local finance board. Now, the local finance board meets once a month, and the application has to be in 3 weeks ahead of time. Again, the local finance board recommends that you have at least 1-2 meetings, local finance board meetings available after you apply. In the event that they are requesting additional information, or in the event that a mistake is made, you want to have a couple meetings. So we're shooting for the submission date of June 18th, which will put us at the local finance board meeting July 16th. There's an August meeting and September meeting. Now, we've heard some discussion about a 90-day period for the MUA to do their layoff plan and deal with the civil service requirements. That should commence on or about September 1st, and then November 3rd will be the introduction or the final adoption of the ordinance. And the effective date of the actual dissolution would be November 30th, at which point the township will take over the operations. We'll have, Mr. Schwartz can explain, we'll have a 1-month budget for December, and then we'll have the same fiscal year, the township fiscal year, which is the calendar year. So that's the overall framework and time frame that we're dealing with. So tonight, if the council decides to move forward with this, I'm recommending that it be done quickly because that's our time frame we have to deal with. So tonight's resolution simply authorizes the application to the local finance board. It is not the actual dissolution.
Gary, he said you were going to speak about how you're going to absorb the employees, because I would like to make sure that most of them are protected. A lot of them are my residents, and
Well,
some of them we're going to lose, I know.
anytime you consolidate personnel, equipment. It's a step in the right direction to not only for, planning projects, bigger projects, you have a more manpower base, and although we work hand in hand with the MUA now, there's still a process that we have to, we have to get in conjunction with them to get together to do a project. So anytime that's in one house, the planning and, completing that job, the manpower base, the equipment base, anytime such, as little as snowstorms, gives you more ability to manpower, more ability to equipment, and them things. And then, it is our intention, or at least my intention, that it's not our intention to hurt any existing employees, and their families. But we do got to deal with, a union on this side. So there's some negotiations that has to, to happen. So, it's maybe not the word you want to hear, but there's no positive guarantee that will absorb everybody. But it is our intention to, to do what we can to lessen the impact.
I don't have a question about the finances because I know Lauren could have done the job months ago. We offered it, and our collection office is all wonderful. So that's it for me for right now.
I can assure you there'll be a fair process for the employees.
Well, I haven't been in this business a long time. That's the wastewater treatment side. I also done a lot of reviewing. The Marlboro Township Utilities Authority in '09, they dissolved, and they're realizing over $700,000 a year, providing the same services. And prior to dissolving an authority, and the municipality needs to make sure the authority's existing permit status and requirements, the licensure requirements for the facility's operations, the current and future capital requirements for the authority's facilities, civil service and collective bargaining agreements requirements, and assuming eliminating existing staff, which is important because the staff wants to work, and the impact of the dissolution on the local municipal budget. But dissolving an existing authority takes a lot of work. The message from our constituents is to do more with less. New Jersey can no longer afford bureaucracy rife with duplicate functions. If consolidation of government functions on a state or county level is to become a viable option, the process should begin with each municipality looking at its own and its authorities' operations for the application of the same principles. Because New Jersey families no longer can tolerate the waste of tax dollars, and neither should our elected officials.
Eric?
Excuse me. I have a question for this gentleman. In the 991,000, is that, there's a lot of talk of absorbing services. Obviously, when you absorb services, salaries go up, and is that included in any of that savings? That obviously is going to take away from that savings, correct?
I'm not quite sure what the question is regarding to salaries going up.
Well, obviously, people are going to absorb more work, people are going to be paid more, there's going to be more people,
Yes, and I did not quantify that. I did mention that in the report, that there is a very good likelihood that there may be the need for one additional clerical person, either in the finance department or the tax office. But until you actually start doing the fiscal operations, you really won't know exactly whether you'll need somebody additional or not. That's why I did not quantify that.
that's what I thought, thank you. That's it for me, I'm sorry.
Okay. Manager, have you given any thought to what the value of the land would be? You said in year 3 you would consider selling the current property, which houses our public works and our dump. Has anyone given any estimation of what that property would be worth if sold?
No, I have not, but I would suggest with how many acres do you have there, Gary?
I believe it's a little over 5, between 5 and 7.
So I would think you're looking at probably $250,000 to $500,000
Didn't we ask?
sale
Yeah,
price.
it's valued at $484.
It's valued at $484 right now, yes,
484.
For if it was,
on the block today.
Yeah, for tax purposes. That's what we have it
So
listed.
the estimates are right in there.
All right.
So we're talking about a savings of $1 million that you're projecting. And I saw we have 7,000 people getting water and sewer, and 7,000 people that are getting water and sewer, right? And 13,000 that are just getting sewer. Did I get that correct?
13,000 that get sewer
13,000 that get waste,
and 7,000
They're
that have
get-
water.
water and,
80%
Right.
of the township in one way, shape, or form is part of the ratepayer system.
I was just trying to do the math on, dividing the number of ratepayers into that $1 million. It's approaching $100 per ratepayer per year.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
No more questions.
All right, I'm going to save my comments until we go to vote on the resolution. What I'd like you to do now is read the resolution, and then we'll open it up for public comment at that point.
Resolution number 2014-146, a resolution authorizing the Township of Lower to make application to the Local Finance Board pursuant to NJSA 40A 5A-20 for the dissolution of the Lower Township Municipal Utilities Authority.
Okay, now, council, you can either make further comments. If not, I'll open it up for public comment at this time. Please keep your comments brief, to the point. Approach the microphone. Tell us where you live, what town you are, and go ahead at this point. This gentleman back here, go ahead. I see your hand in the air. Come on forward. Is that John? Yes. I need one of them long sticks so I can,
John Skronsky, 607 Arctic Avenue.
yes.
The state wants townships and communities to consolidate, and in us doing this, consolidating the MUA with the township, will we get any benefits from the state by doing this?
Well, that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, and maybe even Bill Blaney would know more about that, but there were plans when you did share services, but I don't think that they're in effect at this point. There was a push in the legislature to reward towns for this, but that's not on the table here. What you really have is the ability to, say, stabilize rates,
Yeah, right.
to save money, pay off debt service, those kinds of things.
I
which are-
thought maybe we get some help from the state. But
Well, if there is, believe me, we'll be searching for it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's a gentleman back here with the yellow shirt.
I think you know me, but my name is Tom Frizzoli, and I'm part of the committee that oversees the MUA. And I have just two questions. Question number one, when this is dissolved, what happens to the commissioners that are sitting on the board? Do they stay or do they go?
Once it becomes a township department, there's no need for a board of public utility commissioners.
All right, I'm anticipating retiring from my position at the school September the 1st. So I've got to figure out monetarily how I'm going to afford to live because of this big income I get until 2017 from the MUA. Am I going to lose that effective November 30th? Because I might have to look for another.
You will lose your $100 per meeting.
Oh, thank you, that's all I have.
All right, who else wishes to address? Yes, sir.
Excuse me, my name's Johnny Walker. I reside at 116 West Pacific Avenue, Villas. And I guess most of these questions I'm going to ask right now are going to be directed to Councilman Conrad. Tom, I walked out of here at the last meeting and I was quite angry and quite upset. And I thought about this for over a week. Number one, why do you have such a difficult time when it comes to making a major decision for the people in Ward 1?
May I ask what this has to do with the resolution that we're,
I'm going to lead to that. That'll lead to.
You're talking,
We're talking about the resolution.
We're talking about the MUA.
Talking about the
specifically,
MUA.
Nothing else.
That's the, today, I just can't believe for the life of me that you want to know why now, when we're talking about saving $1 million a year with 23,000 residents here in our lower township. Nobody wants to see anybody lose a job. We don't want to see anybody off a line. But when it comes to this, it should be a no-brainer. I just can't understand
Are you
it,
going to let me
Tom.
answer, or are we going to continue? This seems to be a little bit more political, but the point blank, I want to make informed decisions. I want the information up front so I can study it. That's my job. It's to get stuff on Thursday, like at the last meeting, and not be prepared that I wasn't aware it was going on till then. Just like this week, I got it Saturday night, to be honest with you. That's why I ask certain questions, to make informed decisions. I don't just go with that, what's going on. I want to make sure I make the best decision for the residents. There's no personal thing here. I'm trying to make an informed decision.
Well,
That means you have to have information. That means you ask questions, get answers, and you study things. That's why I ask those questions, and that's the reason.
I certainly understand that, but it seems that every topic that comes up, you have 1,000 questions.
Well-
And to me, I'm just
right,
sitting
calm
here
down.
watching it, and it's just not hitting home.
Did you know all this information beforehand?
I've been coming to a lot of meetings, Tom.
Okay, no, did you know this information
No,
about
I
the
no, I don't.
Neither
No,
did I, and that's why I asked.
Well, in all honesty, Tom, we got our packages.
Yeah, I know.
You were out of town. That's why you didn't get it till Saturday.
And it was-
But I mean, in all honesty, it was delivered to your house on Thursday.
Yes, I know. But
Tom, I'm just asking, can you be more informative to the people in your ward?
how much more information?
When's the last time you talked, or went door to door? When's the last time you even had a
This is pure
conference call?
political.
That's at this point, we're just focusing
Tom,
on
this
the
is a
MUA.
no-brainer. We need this.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. You know better than to yell out like that. Just, that's done. Who else wishes to address council? Yes.
Janet Pitts Villas. Actually, this has been going on in the state for quite a long time. I think we had a study done here, like 2001, and they proposed that we move the MUA billing over to our collection, tax collection office. So these kinds of consolidations throughout the towns have been happening in New Jersey like crazy, and we certainly know Governor Christie's for it. So I see it as a good move, and particularly since there's been so much, shall we say, contention and issues involving the MUA, and not just these recent ones. Some of them have gone back for years. I think it's a good move. It's good use of our land. The fact that we would move Public Works over to the MUA and be able to sell that property would, I don't know what kind of money we're talking about with that, but that looks like a nice.
Excuse me,
Of grant.
you're interfering with the meeting back there. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the other thing was, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't MUA have an outside billing agency that they hired? So wouldn't that save money bringing their
That's
billing into
Mr.
the
Schwartz
township?
is on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who else wishes to address council? This person back here with the red, I can see a red hand sticking up. It's hard to see anybody in the crowd back here. There you go.
Mary Reeder, I just expressed that I appreciate the questions and comments because I walked in here, I didn't know this was going to happen. And this is a personal thing. To have presenters with their backs to me, it bothered me. Number two, what was it? Did I really hear that this township is going to gain $1 million a year because of this action?
That is correct.
Actually,
Million
they
a
weren't
year.
sure because some of the costs weren't included in the estimate of $1 million.
Wow.
I think we're pretty, I think the term minimum was used. I think we're pretty confident of that savings.
Wow.
Thank you. Somebody else, I see a hand here. Person there with the dark shirt, black shirt, blue shirt.
Jay Young, Cape May Beach. Following up on your questions, Deputy, the $991,000 savings, that comes off the top, so that we would expect to get a rebate or a reduction in the rate?
No.
Where,
No.
where does that money, seriously, where does that money go? Does
The
that
money goes, go ahead, Mr. Schwartz.
It's $1 million. It has to go
Excuse me.
somewhere.
When a utility budget is prepared, if there's not sufficient revenue to cover all of the needed expenses, the authority properly uses what's called fund balance, or a reserved money that they have from before. The amount of reserved money that was used in the combined water and sewer authority budgets for 2014 was in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. So what this means is that through the savings, the amount of fund balance that will have to be used will be significantly reduced, which will allow the ratepayers to maintain the rate that they're presently paying for a much longer period of time. Because when money is used from the reserves, the fund balance, it's gone. It's spent.
It's a stabilization of rates.
Yes.
All right, so there's never any reductions? I mean, things don't go down, they just stay the same or go up?
Well, what happens is they stay the same for a lot longer than if we were sitting back now and next year, if we did this and next year, the MUA needed $1 million in increased rates. By doing what is proposed, we wouldn't have to increase the rates because you've made cuts and savings.
Okay. You also referred to, I thought I heard you say something about a buyout on sick time?
Yes, as is typical with most type of...
Even though you're assuming these employees, you would have to pay out on some sick time?
The employees that are presently employed by the authority will no longer be employed by the authority when the authority is dissolved. So from the authority side, that means that the money that is owed to them is owed to them. The compensated absences, it's their accumulated sick time, accumulated vacation, those type of things. So they would have to be paid in some fashion, yes. And that could be about $200,000, but that would come out of the retained earnings or the fund balance that the authority presently has. It would not impact the township, and it would not impact the ratepayers of the authority.
But
It's a legitimate liability.
But it would, it would impact the $991,000 savings?
No, it would not.
So that would be, that's already taken in consideration. So there's a $200,000 payment to employees under some contract obligation for sick time that's not used.
That's correct, and that's a one-time amount. And as I did mention, and I don't know the answer to this, but I would presume that all of the employees that are taken into the township would probably be able to have it negotiated that their compensated absences would remain with them, with the township.
All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate you asking questions. There's a lot of numbers that are thrown out here. It's difficult for us without visual aids to get a grasp on how these numbers all work together. So, I mean, just don't accept this stuff without questioning it.
Thank you.
Very much.
Somebody else? This gentleman on the left here. Steve?
That's ought to be good.
You don't mind, I'm going to have to sit.
Please
Been
do.
all day at the VA since early this morning.
Why don't you sit up here?
And I just got back a half hour ago. I'm sorry I'm not better prepared than what I am, but I just got word about this meeting late on Friday. I had no other inclination that this meeting would take place. Mayor, council, ladies and gentlemen, I'm strongly opposed to any attempt to disband our MUA. My name is Steve Sheffs, and our family has owned property here since 1945. And my wife and I built our first home here in 1967, a year before the MUA was formed. In the way of background, after high school, I joined the Navy for 4.5 years, including Korea. I attended Pennsylvania Military College, which is now Widener University, and earned my degree in engineering. We're working for Bell at PA, I got my professional license. During the 30 years I worked for Bell and AT&T, I furthered my education at Penn State, Temple, and Drexel. During that time, my responsibilities grew to where I managed management and vocational people working for me in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. After retiring, I continued to do engineering work throughout South Jersey.
Steve, we have a lot of people that want to
I
speak tonight. Can you
understand.
cut
Just
to the
be
cut to
patient
what you
with
need?
me, sir,
I
please.
will, but you need to move ahead.
I obtained my professional license in New Jersey on April 5th, 1990. Among the many jobs I have held here was as a senior engineer, municipal services. I mention the above for reasons, namely, as a great man once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. In my opinion, I believe to disband the MUA would be an injustice to the people of Lower Township, especially our ratepayers. Both the municipality and the MUA have faced challenges over the years. However, most of them have been thoroughly satisfied. I could go into some other details there, but I would remind you that in the late 90s, I was approached by the mayor and people of both parties. They asked me to serve on the MUA board. At my very first meeting, I was appointed chairman, despite the fact that I was the only Republican sitting on the board. I was immediately made aware of some major issues that had to be addressed promptly. One was the threat of shutting down all of Skellinger's Landing because of an insufficient water supply. The other was the people on Willow Drive, Crawford Road, and the Sheridan Track had water and sewer problems to the point that raw sewage was in their front and backyards. Though we had very little money on hand, we found we had some money left over from a grant. To help assure that Skellinger's Landing would not shut down, we put a very large feeder pipe underneath the canal, and we reinforced all the lines on the island. Also, a sewer was put on Willow Drive and connected to Middle Township. And both water and sewer lines were completed on Crawford Road and the Sheridan Track. In 2000, the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Authority Foundation's statewide loan program got its start right here in the villas. A lady with her little baby could not afford to connect to the water in front of her home, despite their baby not being permitted to either ingest or be bathed in the tap water. After numerous meetings with Congressman Gibson, he introduced legislation to provide help to the people who might need the financial help. And I was asked to support his bill by providing testimony in Trenton. Our township friend, Mr. Jerry Keelan, and if you don't know him, you certainly should.
Steve, second request. Can you please, we have
Okay,
other
I will
people
be
that want to
brief
come
now,
up
I'm
here.
short.
I understand you object
Okay,
to this.
thank
Is
you.
there specific reasons?
Would handle the statewide program where people today can borrow up to $10,000, 0% interest, 1% declining service fee with a 10-year payback. That is now the law. When we discovered all the problems we had in Town Bank, which were very severe, we had things known as volatile organic compounds, where 1 part per billion is harmful to your health. We had the application revised. We are the only application, Lower Township has the only application where well testing is not permitted. As of March 2008, drastic positive improvements have occurred and are occurring now. Physically, There are major water improvements ongoing, major wastewater improvements, treatment plant improvements, and so forth. Dollars, we obtained $12 million grant for MUA's water installation project, the second largest grant ever in the state of New Jersey. Operations, we have increased operational effectiveness. Other municipalities have done what you have done. And to my knowledge, every single one is sorry they did. For example, we don't charge for meters. You take a look around at what the other water companies are charging. They charge at least $25 a meter and up to $5,000 a meter per quarter. I just wanted to say,
Steve, please.
okay, I just want to say one other thing. Having just, learned about this issue.
You're on the board at the MUA, correct?
Okay. Yes, sir, I am a member of that board.
Okay, I just
But
want
I
to put a
see
record.
us wasting a lot of time and talent. The other thing, I heard the gentleman talk here about wages. Well, our people are pretty well paid. I don't know if you're aware of that. But if they began to work for the township tomorrow, their wages would be minimal. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Somebody else wish to address?
Real quick, Mike, you
Yes.
did bring up a point. Currently, the MUA offers an in-house loan program for residents. Would we still be able to maintain
Yeah,
that?
I spoke with our grants coordinator, who told me that there would still be access to a variety of different programs. Okay, somebody else? I see a hand back there, lady, I believe. Thank you.
Patricia Engstrom, Villas. $1 million grabbed my attention. And I think if you can save the taxpayers that, you'd be remiss not to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address council? This gentleman straight back here.
I just want to add a question, but I'll wait.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, who's your question for?
For Mr. Schwartz, didn't we say this 991 does not include a lot of, basically, we talked about absorbing services, right? So do you feel that that's a fair and accurate amount if that's not included? Wouldn't that take away from that 991? Absorbing services and the people that are going to do more work, and if you have to hire other people to do those jobs?
From the information I've been provided, there's only the question of the one additional potential clerical person in either finance or tax. The other services, the operating services, will be absorbed through Public Works by combining,
For the same amount of money as it is now?
without changing the number of employees, yes.
I'm talking about salaries.
The salary part, I can't respond to what the individuals will be paid. That's going to depend on the civil service position that they end up with.
Right, I understand. I think my point is people, generally don't do more work or twice as much work for the same amount of money, so those salaries will go up, and that's not included in this.
Well, I don't know that anybody's going to be asked to do twice as much work, but that's something that we have within our union contracts, that we have wage scales, and I mean, we don't do the stipend thing. I mean, this would be something that would have to be decided by the solicitor, the manager, and things like that, but I can't imagine it would be significant. That's you guys.
He might be trying to get Gary a raise.
Gary, do you need a raise?
There's going to be I'm assuming there'll be a lot of raises because there's going to be people going to be asked to do a lot more work, obviously.
The only place I'm aware of that there will be an additional workload will be in the finance and in the tax department. And the way the billings and collections are structured, it will actually smooth out the workload and the work year for those individuals, because it will be, the workload presently in any municipality in New Jersey, because the taxes are due February 1st, May 1st,
Right.
November 1st, et cetera. Oh, I missed August. The workload has sort of a sine wave effect to it, because it's got its peaks and valleys. So those valleys will get filled up a little bit. It won't be an extraordinary amount of additional work for anyone within Township Hall. In the operating component of it, there, it's not going to be additional work for any of the employees. It's just that they're going to be doing different things because they'll be possibly moving between the utility department and the routine public works component. So as long as the workload estimates are accurate, there should not be needs for any salary adjustments.
Not only the $1 million that's been identified, and that's the minimal savings, there's things that we haven't even discussed, duplication of backhoes and dump trucks and vehicles. You don't need a car for the executive director. It goes on and on and on. And until we get in there and really work, I believe, Councilman, it'll be seamless. As far as the employees, they're going to be treated fair. You know how I am. I've been here for 3 years, and this council's been fair to all its employees. And as far as the pension system, they'll still have the credit for the amount of years in their pension system. So it should be seamless, and we'll get through the process in a fair way.
Okay, we're back to public comment. Mr. Mento?
Joe Mento, Englewood Road. For the last 5 years, I was one of the directors down at the
Yes, sir.
MUA, and I think, without being egotistical, I probably know more about the budget than anybody does. No one took the time to ask me a question about it. You cannot save $1 million. I have spent my entire life in the financial end, and I can tell you right now, I know that budget inside and out. I was very dedicated for 5 years. My term expired in January, and for one instance, when you take over, you have a set date. From that date on, that's where the savings come in. We've already eliminated about $500,000 in salaries. The executive director, the IT person, and there's 2 people who have turned in their resignation. So that's $500,000 has already been saved. You're not going to save that again. But forgetting about the numbers, excuse me, the intangibles I don't think you've considered. First of all, when we did the $12.5 million project, we had to make certain conditions with DEP to get the water. In New Jersey, all the water is controlled by the DEP. We had to commit to put in testing wells. Those testing wells are going to be very expensive to monitor. That was one of the conditions for us to get the water. So I don't know if you've added that cost. And there's a lot of other intangibles. There's a pending documents with the city of Cape May. There's an interconnect agreement. That has never been resolved in the last 3 or 4 years. I don't understand why anyone is picking on the MUA. The MUA has kept the rates low. They have not raised the rates. We have probably one of the lowest rates in the area. And my prediction is that this is a terrible, terrible mistake. And within about 2 years, you're going to have to sell the MUA, and our rates are going to double or triple.
That won't happen.
Well, we'll see.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? There's a lady with her hand up. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marilyn Meeko. I'm from North Cape May. I have a question and then I have a comment. My question is, how long did it take this gentleman here to do the study that he reported tonight?
It started in February.
So February of this past year? Because I was at the meeting last month, and a question was raised as to was there any discussion about dissolving the MUA? And the answer from council was absolutely not. And now we sit here tonight,
No.
and now we have something in front of us.
No,
So I'm a little disturbed with that, because evidently I was given false information. Thank you.
The question, yeah.
The question was whether we had made a decision regarding dissolution, and we said that hold on. I got the minutes right here. I hope. Jewel, I lost my minutes. You have them?
Tom Frizzoli questioned.
Put the
mayor.
microphone.
All right, time out. Here's your minutes.
Tom Frizzoli questioned the mayor, saying that rumors have been going on about the township taking over the MUA. Is that true? Mayor Beck replied that that decision had not been made. That was the question and the answer.
You go. You can watch it on TV if you so desire. Somebody else that hasn't been up, Steve, you've been up already. Okay? You've had your turn. We'll close the public portion. And I will have council discussion. Do I have a motion to approve, and then we can discuss it as we go through?
Mayor, I move that we approve this motion. When we ran for office, we promised that we would do our best to be good stewards of this township and the taxpayers' money. And even if our figures were off by half, and it was a $500,000 savings, as the woman who got up said, we would be remiss. This gets our attention. And I wanted to thank the manager for the study and the research that's been done, and also making sure that the employee situation is taken care of correctly. So I move that we adopt this motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that with the idea that we're going to save all this money and we're going to take care of the employees that work down there as best as possible. Second.
So council can comment as they vote. Tom?
I have questions on the MUA. I've had questions for many months. I've been asking, I've been told different things. A lot of the financial questions are true. I do have some questions still on what we have to go forward with. At this time, I have to vote no.
Okay. Excuse me. You should know better, please. Thank you. You're up.
Councilmember Neville,
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson,
When we initially discussed this, it was said that nothing would be taken care of till after the investigation was finished by the prosecutor's office. I still, there's too many questions in this. I don't believe that this 991 is accurate. At this time, I'm going to say no.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Beck.
Okay, I'm going to get a chance to speak here. And, you may sit here and say, well, we don't care about the employees. I was there when I was a kid. My dad lost his job with Westinghouse, so I understand that. It's one of the concerns we had. But I have 23,000 other people and a lot of ratepayers too. And $1 million is a lot of money. Don't fight me, fight that number. Now, this just begins the process. This is just the first step. And until we actually, it's going to take months before we get there. And what's the point here? The point is, for an elected official, tonight to me is like the Super Bowl. We run for office and we sit back and we say, I'm going to cut the waste in government. I'm going to fight for the taxpayer, the ratepayer. Well, this is it. This is where the buck stops. That's a tough decision, and I hope we hire every employee that wants to come over to the township. And I sincerely will fight to have that done. And I think we all will, but we have to work within the confines of how state government operates in this respect. That being said, show me the person in this town so we can put them in the Smithsonian who doesn't want to save $1 million so we can all go and look at them. I mean, $1 million a year, you're stabilizing the rates down there, you're helping to pay off some of the debt, and that's just the financial end of it. Lord knows that from an administrative perspective, I think we can run that MUA. I think we can do a good job with it, and I think it would be a tremendous partnership with the township. I mean, the difference between the other attempts is that we did do our homework. And yes, we weren't going to do anything until the prosecutor moved forward, but I'll die of old age before he does. I mean, you have to be kidding, right? Yeah, are you kidding? How long are we going to wait? I think it's imperative. This is not an option tonight. I consider this to be an obligation. I don't have the right to sit back and say, I don't want to save $1 million. I have to. So my answer is yes for the resolution. Okay. So that ends the discussion on the MUA, and we'll take a minute just to recess for a minute if we can, so that I would like to take just a moment to thank all those people that came out tonight, Bob, Lauren, Gary, Bill. I think you did a tremendous job with this, and I appreciate your efforts. Wait, okay, okay, we're going to go back in a couple of minutes. I'll give you a minute or two to talk with them.